As the rain poured relentlessly outside, I found refuge in the Hawthorne Inn, a charming old hotel with a reputation for history and mystery. The lobby was adorned with antique furniture, and the scent of aged wood and polished brass hung in the air. The innkeeper handed me the key to room 213 with an enigmatic smile, warning me, "You might want to keep your ears open." Curiosity piqued, I made my way down the dimly lit corridor to room 213. The hallway seemed to stretch endlessly, and the flickering gas lamps cast eerie shadows on the ornate wallpaper. I felt a strange chill in the air as I approached my destination. Upon entering the room, I was struck by the peculiar design. The furnishings were lavish, with plush velvet chairs and a four-poster bed. However, the most striking feature was the ornate mirror that dominated one wall. It was an exquisite work of craftsmanship, but its surface held a disconcerting depth, as if it concealed secrets beyond the glass. As night fell, I heard it, the faintest whispering, like a chorus of hushed voices, emanating from the mirror. At first, I dismissed it as my imagination, but the whispers persisted, growing in intensity. I couldn't make out the words, but the urgency in the voices was unmistakable. Intrigued and unnerved, I approached the mirror, my breath fogging the glass. As I peered into its depths, I saw fleeting glimpses of people, faces contorted in anguish. It was as though the mirror held a portal to another time, a time filled with sorrow and despair. The next day, I decided to investigate the inn's history. It was then that I uncovered the legend of room 213. Decades ago, a tragedy had befallen a young couple who had stayed in that very room. The wife had mysteriously vanished without a trace, leaving her husband grief-stricken and desperate for answers. The innkeeper had always maintained that her spirit lingered in the room, trying to communicate with anyone who dared to listen. With this knowledge in mind, I returned to room 213 that night. The whispers were stronger, more insistent. I realized that the voices were trying to convey a message, pleading for help from the other side. It was a chilling revelation that sent shivers down my spine. I decided to record the whispers, hoping that by doing so, I could uncover the truth of the room's haunted history. As I played back the recordings, I heard faint, fragmented phrases, pleas for release, cries for forgiveness, and desperate yearning for closure. The mirror became the focal point of my investigation. I placed my hand on its surface, and to my astonishment, I felt a surge of cold energy pass through me. It was as though I had made contact with the spirit trapped within the glass. Over the course of several nights, I communicated with the trapped soul, learning her name, Eleanor. She had been the young wife who had vanished so mysteriously, and she had been wrongfully accused of a crime she did not commit. Her spirit had remained bound to room 213, unable to find peace. With the help of a local paranormal expert, we conducted a séance in the room, hoping to free Eleanor's spirit. The room was filled with a chilling presence as we chanted incantations and called out to the other side. In a moment of startling clarity, the mirror's surface rippled, and Eleanor's tormented face appeared before us. With a heart-wrenching plea, she asked for our assistance in clearing her name and revealing the truth of her disappearance. We vowed to help her in any way we could. Our investigation led us to a hidden compartment in the inn's library, where we found a forgotten diary belonging to Eleanor. The diary chronicled her life and the events leading up to her disappearance. It revealed a web of deceit and betrayal, with a surprising twist that could clear her name once and for all. Armed with this newfound evidence, we sought out the descendants of those involved in the tragic events of the past. With the truth finally revealed, Eleanor's spirit began to fade from the mirror, her tormented expression replaced by one of serene gratitude. Room 213 was never the same after that night. The whispers ceased, and the mirror lost its eerie depth. Eleanor had found the closure she had long sought, and the Hawthorne Inn became known for its unique history rather than its mysteries. I left the inn with a sense of fulfillment, knowing that I had played a part in setting a restless spirit free. The Hawthorne Inn's enigmatic corridor and the mirror in room 213 had shared their secrets with me, and I would carry their story with me always, a tale of redemption, forgiveness, and the enduring power of the unexplained. But the story didn't end there. In the weeks that followed, I continued to research the history of the Hawthorne Inn and its connection to the mysterious room 213. I discovered that the inn had a rich and complex past, filled with stories of love, betrayal, and tragedy. It was said that room 213 had been the site of not one, but several unexplained disappearances over the years. Each case had left behind a trail of unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. It was as if the room itself held a dark secret, one that refused to be forgotten. I decided to delve deeper into the history of the inn, seeking out old records and speaking with long-time residents of the town. What I uncovered was a pattern of strange occurrences that seemed to center around room 213. Guests who had stayed in the room reported eerie phenomena, objects moving on their own, strange whispers in the night, and even sightings of shadowy figures. The more I learned, the more convinced I became that there was something truly sinister at play in room 213. It was as if the room had a malevolent presence, one that had existed for generations, and one that would not rest until its secrets were revealed. Determined to uncover the truth, I began to conduct nightly vigils in room 213, armed with recording equipment and a sense of trepidation. The whispers returned, stronger and more urgent than ever. It was as if the spirits of those who had vanished in the room were trying to communicate with me, to tell their stories and find the peace they had been denied for so long. One night, as I sat in the dimly lit room, I felt a cold breeze sweep through the air, despite the windows being closed. The mirror on the wall began to shimmer, and I saw the reflection of a young woman, her face twisted in anguish. It was Eleanor, but she was not alone. She was joined by the other lost souls who had vanished in room 213, each one reaching out to me with outstretched hands. I realized that they were asking for my help, pleading with me to uncover the truth of their disappearances and put their souls to rest. It was a daunting task, but I knew I couldn't turn my back on them. Over the course of months, I painstakingly pieced together the puzzle of room 213. I unearthed old letters, diaries, and newspaper articles that shed light on the events that had taken place within those haunted walls. It was a tale of jealousy, greed, and betrayal, with a tragic love story at its heart. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I gathered the descendants of those involved in the dark history of room 213. Together, we conducted a seance, just as I had done with Eleanor. The room was filled with a palpable energy, and I could sense the presence of the lost souls around us. As we chanted the incantations and called out to the spirits, the mirror on the wall began to glow with an otherworldly light. The lost souls materialized before us, their faces filled with a mixture of sorrow and hope. They spoke, their voices filled with gratitude and forgiveness, and with a final, ethereal sigh, they began to fade away, their souls finally at peace. Room 213 was never the same after that night. The whispers were replaced by a profound silence, and the mirror's eerie depth had vanished. It was as if the malevolent presence that had haunted the room had been banished forever. I left the Hawthorne Inn with a sense of closure, knowing that I had helped the lost souls of room 213 find the peace they had sought for so long. The inn's history was no longer shrouded in mystery and darkness, but illuminated by the light of truth and redemption. As I walked away from the inn, I couldn't help but wonder about the countless other old hotels and historic buildings that held their own secrets and mysteries. It was a reminder that sometimes, the most inexplicable phenomena could be unraveled with determination, compassion, and a willingness to listen to the whispers of the past. It was a sweltering summer day when I arrived at the secluded Windermere Hotel, nestled deep in the heart of a dense forest. The aging structure exuded an air of forgotten grandeur. The staff was unusually somber when I inquired about my room assignment, With an uneasy smile, the concierge handed me the key to room 417. The journey to the room was peculiar. The hallway leading to it seemed to stretch on endlessly, each step echoing with a strange, hollow resonance. When I finally reached the door, it bore no room number, just an empty plaque. I hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me, and I pushed the door open. Room 417 appeared to be from another era. The furnishings were antique, and a thick layer of dust covered everything. An ancient typewriter sat on the desk, seemingly untouched for decades. It was as if the room had been preserved in time, forgotten by the world. That night, I heard faint music playing from the corner of the room, a haunting melody that filled the air with melancholy. I followed the sound to find an old phonograph, its needle dancing along the grooves of a dusty record. The record player, like everything else in the room, should have been long past its prime. As the days passed, I became captivated by room 417's mysteries. Mysterious messages appeared on the typewriter without explanation, as if an unseen hand was using it to communicate. The room's temperature fluctuated wildly, from freezing cold to stifling heat, even though the hotel's thermostat remained steady. The strangest occurrence came one evening when I awoke to find a ghostly figure standing at the foot of my bed. It was a woman dressed in an old-fashioned gown, her features obscured by the ethereal glow surrounding her. She stared at me with sorrowful eyes and whispered words I couldn't quite comprehend. Disturbed and intrigued, I began to research the hotel's history. It was then that I discovered the tragic tale of Elizabeth Hastings, a young woman who had mysteriously disappeared from room 417 many decades ago. The circumstances surrounding her vanishing were shrouded in mystery, and her body was never found. It was as if she had simply vanished into thin air. Determined to uncover the truth, I delved deeper into Elizabeth's story. I learned that she had been a gifted pianist, and her music had once filled the halls of the Windermere Hotel. Her sudden disappearance had left her music unfinished, and some believed that her spirit still lingered in the hotel, desperately trying to complete her final composition. One night, as I sat in the dimly lit room, the ghostly figure of Elizabeth appeared before me once again. This time, her spectral hand reached out, guiding mine to the old typewriter. With a sense of purpose, I began to type, the keys clacking with an otherworldly rhythm. What emerged on the page was a hauntingly beautiful melody, a composition that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the hotel. As the last note echoed through the room, Elizabeth's figure smiled, her form slowly fading away, as if finding the closure she had sought for so long. Room 417 was never the same after that night. The mysterious occurrences ceased, and the room seemed to return to its quiet, forgotten state. I left the Windermere Hotel with a profound sense of wonder and a haunting melody etched in my memory. To this day, room 417 remains an enigma, a place where the past and present converge in a haunting symphony. The Windermere Hotel continues to draw curious visitors, each hoping to uncover the secrets of that elusive room. And as for me, I carry the haunting melody of Elizabeth Hastings with me, a reminder that sometimes, the most inexplicable mysteries can lead to the most beautiful discoveries. As I researched further, I discovered that Elizabeth Hastings had been an incredibly gifted pianist who once played in the hotel's grand ballroom. She had been known for her ethereal performances, with guests from all over the world attending the hotel's events to hear her play. However, tragedy struck one fateful night during a thunderstorm. Elizabeth was scheduled to perform in the ballroom, but she never made it. She vanished without a trace, leaving her beloved piano silent and her music unfinished. The guests were left bewildered, and a cloud of sadness descended upon the Windermere Hotel. It was said that her ghostly presence could still be felt in the hotel, particularly in room 417, which had been her private quarters. Guests who stayed in that room often reported hearing the faint strains of piano music in the dead of night, as if Elizabeth were trying to complete her final composition from beyond the grave. I couldn't resist the temptation to explore the hotel's history further, and I decided to visit the grand ballroom where Elizabeth had once performed. It had fallen into disrepair, but the old grand piano still stood on the stage, covered in a dusty sheet. As I approached the piano, a chill ran down my spine. Without thinking, I removed the sheet and hesitantly placed my fingers on the keys. To my astonishment, the piano seemed to come to life on its own, as if guided by an unseen hand. The room filled with the hauntingly beautiful melody that I had heard in room 417. I played along, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and awe. It was as if Elizabeth herself was there, guiding my hands, helping me to complete her unfinished composition. Tears welled up in my eyes as the music swelled to its conclusion, and then, with a final, lingering note, it faded away. I knew then that I had experienced something truly extraordinary. It was as if Elizabeth had found a way to communicate through her music, to reach out from beyond the veil of death and share her passion one last time. With a heavy heart, I left the Windermere Hotel, knowing that I had uncovered a story that defied explanation. Room 417 and the grand ballroom remained silent and empty, but I carried with me the haunting melody that Elizabeth had entrusted to me. To this day, I can't help but wonder if Elizabeth's spirit found the peace she had long sought, or if she continues to roam the halls of the Windermere Hotel, forever connected to the music that was her life's passion. It's a mystery that will never truly be solved, a tale of love, loss, and the enduring power of music that I will never forget. It was a dark and stormy night when I checked into the old Riverside Hotel. The lobby was dimly lit, and the musty scent of history hung heavy in the air. The clerk handed me the key to room 333 with a cautious smile, a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. As I made my way up the creaking staircase to the third floor, I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The hallway leading to my room seemed unnaturally long, and the dimly flickering lights did little to comfort my nerves. The hotel was said to be over a century old, and I couldn't help but wonder what stories these walls could tell. Upon entering room 333, I noticed that the air was unnaturally cold, even for a stormy night. I brushed it off, attributing it to the drafty old building. I settled in, and as the storm raged outside, I heard faint whispers echoing through the room, as though someone was having a hushed conversation just out of earshot. It was almost as if the very walls were whispering secrets. Over the next few nights, things took a chilling turn. The television turned on by itself, always to a static-filled channel showing distorted faces. The bathroom faucet would randomly drip, no matter how tightly I turned the handle. And worst of all, I started seeing a shadowy figure out of the corner of my eye, darting from one end of the room to the other. Its presence was unmistakable, yet whenever I turned to confront it, there was nothing there. Desperate for answers, I decided to ask the hotel staff about the history of room 333. Their faces grew somber as they told me the tale of a guest who had mysteriously vanished from that very room decades ago, leaving only their journal behind. The last entry spoke of eerie whispers and a shadowy figure that tormented them. It seemed that my experiences were mirroring those of the unfortunate guests who had come before me. Terrified but determined, I sought out more information. I discovered that the Riverside Hotel had a long and storied history, filled with tragic events and unexplained occurrences. It had once been a grand establishment, hosting lavish parties and distinguished guests, but over the years, it had fallen into disrepair, and its glory days had become distant memories. The room I was staying in, room 333, had a particularly dark past. It was rumored to have been the site of a grisly murder-suicide many years ago. The tragic events had left a stain on the room, and some believed that the restless spirits of the victims still lingered, unable to find peace. As my stay continued, the activity in the room intensified. Objects would move on their own, and I would wake up to find my belongings scattered around the room. The whispers grew louder, and I could make out fragments of phrases, often repeating the same chilling words. "Stay with us." One night, as I lay in bed, paralyzed by fear, the room plunged into darkness. I could hear the shuffling of unseen feet, and the temperature dropped to an unbearable cold. The shadowy figure materialized at the foot of my bed, its form shifting and contorting in unnatural ways. It reached out a ghostly hand, and I could feel an icy grip around my ankle, pulling me towards it. I mustered all the strength I had left and let out a scream that pierced the silence of the room. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, and the room returned to its eerie stillness. The figure was gone, and the icy grip had released me. I knew I couldn't stay in that room any longer. The Riverside Hotel had become a living nightmare, and room 333 was the epicenter of the horror. I gathered my belongings and rushed out of the room, leaving behind a trail of terror. Since that fateful night, I've heard that others who dared to stay in room 333 have had their own encounters with the restless spirit that inhabits it. Some have reported hearing anguished cries in the dead of night, while others have seen ghostly apparitions at the foot of the bed. The stories have only added to the hotel's grim reputation. The Riverside Hotel has become notorious for this cursed room, and some say it stands as a testament to a dark and unresolved past. Whether you believe in the supernatural or not, room 333 serves as a chilling reminder that some mysteries are best left undisturbed. Its sinister secrets continue to haunt those who dare to enter, and its malevolent presence casts a long shadow over the Riverside Hotel's history. As I reflect on my own harrowing experience, I can't help but wonder if the restless spirits of room 333 will ever find peace, or if they will forever be trapped in a world between the living and the dead, waiting for their next victim to check in.